Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Borges,
My name is Sherry Christensen.
And I'm Tanner Kitching.
and today our team is focusing on one of the greatest leadership challenges in healthcare, people management. Healthcare is unique because it brings together high pressure, emotional intensity, unpredictable patient needs, and the expectation for flawless teamwork. And according to Cummings et al., organizations that fail to support their people see a direct decrease in engagement, a rise in burnout, and ultimately poor patient outcomes. When we talk about people management, we're talking about a leader's ability to communicate effectively, motivate their staff, recognize their contributions, resolve conflict, and create a supportive environment, all while balancing clinical demand and organizational pressure. Burnout is especially significant. Derby et al. Conducted a systemic review showing that leadership behavior is one of the strongest predictors of clinician burnout. In other words, people don't just burn out because the work is hard, they burn out because they feel unsupported. This leadership gap affects everything: morale, turnover, patient safety, and the overall culture. And as our textbook organizational behavior explains, leading people requires not only technical skill, but also emotional intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to shape meaningful work experiences. So today, we'll be analyzing how leadership theories help us understand this challenge and how organizations can implement strategies to motivate, support, and empower their teams. Now passing it off to Sherry to move on to the next slide.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Jason. Let's start our discussion with well-being. Employee well-being refers to an individual's holistic state of health, happiness, and satisfaction within the context of their workplace. It encompasses physical, mental, emotional, social, and financial dimensions, reflecting the overall quality of, of their life as influenced by their work environment, job role, and organizational support. As our slide shows, we have 5 different types of well-being. First, we have our physical well-being, and this encompasses nutrition, exercise, sleep, and overall health. Then we move on to our mental health well-being. This encompasses emotional intelligence, problem-solving abilities, and the capacity to manage and stress and anxiety. Emotional well-being is the third well-being, and that involves recognizing and managing one's emotions effectively. Moving on to social well-being, this pertains to an individual's connections and relationships with others. And finally, we have our financial well-being, which relates to an individual's financial stability and their security. And then we'll move on to our next slide. In order to prevent burnout, we need a transformational leader, promoting engagement and avoiding burnout by focusing on their employees' well-being, provision of guidance, and fostering positive culture. The key behaviors include active listening, empowering their employees, promoting professional development, and encouraging work-life balance, and also building connections within the team. What we don't want to see is on the slide. And our next slide. Mitigating burnout and support engagement is the focus on well-being. We want to promote our health psychological climate, prioritize rest and balance, build trust, connection, and connect work to purpose. On a personal level, I have organized a team at work. It's called the Well-Being Group, and we get together monthly and discuss everything that the field staff feels would better balance their work-life balance and what would make them happy. We take that to leadership and we make changes, and it has been very successful. Moving on to our next slide, employee engagement. Employee engagement can be defined as the commitment an employee has towards their organization. Engaged employees are not just satisfied with their jobs, they're connected to the company's goals, values, and mission. They go the extra mile. They invest their time and energy to contribute to the organization's success. It reflects a sense of purpose and belonging within the workplace. Well-being is closely bonded to engagement, which flourishes with support. Safe and healthy work environments give energy and motivation to engage. Stress, anxiety, and burnout can alter someone's mental well-being. And by offering mental health support, such as counseling services, stress management programs, and flexible work arrangements, can create relief of burden on excess stress. And reduced stress can improve productivity and absenteeism. For example, a young mother looking to work an 8-hour-a-day job can't get there at 8 a.m. as the company requires, but they can get there at 9 a.m. and work their 8 hours. This is a great flexible way to create a happy environment for this employee. Moving on to the next slide. How engagement can actually lead to burnout. Highly engaged employees can overexert, leading to resource depletion. An employee who is always on needs constant positivity, a lack of balance for the employees who work sick or who never take breaks and who work longer hours. This can slowly create a risk of burnout. You take an employee who was completely engaged, they give, and finally burn out. There has to be that balance. Moving on to the next slide. Investing in employee well-being yields several benefits for the organization. Increased productivity, reduced turnover, enhanced reputation, cost savings, and innovation and creativity. Moving on to our next slide. The motivating leader has a clear vision, active listening skills, assertive communication skills, and a positive attitude. We are on a stage as managers. Our employees look to us. Always be on your best behavior and always do the right thing positively. We'll move on to our next slide. To people manage and keep engaged, the continuous process of attracting, educating, and training is of utmost importance. Motivate, empower, and reward is necessary for success. Thank you, and we'll move on to Tanner.
Thank you, Sherry. Hello, my name is Tanner, and I will be discussing the theories behind our projected strategies relating to the challenges that Sherry just introduced. To begin, we will be discussing the transformational leadership theory, which was first introduced in 1978 before being critiqued and expanded upon in the years following. Transformational leadership focuses on the basic distinction between leading for change and leading for stability. Transformational leadership can be defined as the set of abilities that allows the leader to recognize the need for change, to create a vision to guide that change, and to execute that change effectively. In order for a leader to perform these transformations, they must possess tremendous influence. It is common for leaders knowledgeable about transformational leadership to identify the 4 I's of transformational leadership. Those 4 I's are intellectual stimulation, individual consideration, and inspirational motivation, and idealized influence. Those are the images you see on your screen there. Transformational leadership can easily be associated with times of chaos. However, even the most successful organizations can benefit from a transformational leader. This next theory we will be discussing is Hertzberg's 2-factor theory of motivation, which was introduced by Frederick Hertzberg and associates in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Prior to Hertzberg's 2-factor theory, motivation was viewed as a one-dimensional concept correlating satisfaction and motivation. Hertzberg found this to be untrue, citing elements of multiple dimensions must be involved. Hertzberg found these dimensions to be ranging from satisfaction to no satisfaction, and dissatisfaction to no dissatisfaction. The dimension of satisfaction to no satisfaction can be represented by motivation factors, while dissatisfaction to no dissatisfaction can be represented by hygiene factors, as seen on the screen here. Hygiene factors come out in response to questions about dissatisfaction and lack of motivation, citing pay, job security, supervisors, and working conditions as elements that can create dissatisfaction. Motivation factors, however, include elements such as achievement, recognition, and the opportunity to plan and control their own work. The hygiene factors should be addressed first, as once a state of no dissatisfaction exists, trying to improve motivation further through these hygiene factors is a waste of time. Moving on to the next one, the next theory we'll be discussing is in regards to the challenges we are facing is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs was developed by psychologist Abraham Maslow in the 1940s and is the most commonly known need theory. Maslow argued that human beings are wanting animals, meaning they have an innate desire to satisfy a given set of needs. However, these needs are not all the same. Maslow proposed that these needs are arranged in a hierarchy of importance, with the most basic needs at the bottom of the foundation of the hierarchy. The image of the screen shows this hierarchy, with psychological needs being at the base. Maslow believed that each one of these levels must be satisfied before the level above it can become important, meaning once the psychological needs have been satisfied, their importance diminishes, and the security needs will emerge as the primary source of motivation. This escalation up the hierarchy continues until self-actualization becomes the primary motivators. With this being said, if a previously satisfied lower level set of needs becomes deficient again, the individual returns to the deficient level. Moving on, we will now discuss the Hershey and Blanchard model introduced in 1969 by Paul Hershey and Ken Blanchard. The Hershey and Blanchard model was developed as a consulting tool, with the model being based on the notion that appropriate leader behavior depends on the readiness of leaders and followers. In this situation, readiness refers to the subordinate's degree of motivation, competence, experience, and interest in accepting responsibility. The image on the screen portrays Hershey and Blanchard's model with a curved line, suggesting that a leader's relationship behavior should start low, gradually increase, but then decrease again as the follower readiness increases. The leader's task behavior, shown by the straight line, should start high when the follower lacks readiness, and then continually diminish as they gain readiness. As the readiness of the followers improves, the leader's basic style should also change. When subordinate's readiness is low, the leader should rely on a telling style, providing direction and defining roles. When low to moderate readiness exists, the leader should use a selling style by offering direction and role definition accompanied by explanation and information. And then here we're going to be moving on to emotional intelligence. Now that we have discussed the previous methods, we will be looking at emotional intelligence, which is the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships, defined by Daniel Goleman. Goleman describes the 5 dimensions of emotional intelligence that you see on your screen there, including 3 personal competencies, self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation, as well as 2 social competencies in empathy and social skills. Individuals differ in the degree to which they can receive the emotional meaning of others' facial expressions, the ability to understand what others think and feel, knowing how to appropriately persuade and motivate them, and knowing how to resolve conflicts and forge cooperation are some of the most important skills of successful managers. Now that we have discussed the leadership and motivation theories behind our strategy, we will discuss our strategy to balance organizational efficiency with human-centered leadership, meeting productivity goals while supporting and motivating staff. To begin, we will aim to enhance communication and provide ample opportunities to provide feedback. Communication and feedback is essential in many aspects, particularly when engaging the motivation and needs of individual employees, as these are different for each individual. In efforts to obtain this information, we will improve communication using open forums, regular team meetings, and transparent updates. Moving on, in addition to improving communication and feedback outlets, we will focus on creating employee well-being. Sherry mentioned this earlier, as individuals working in healthcare are consistently in high-stress situations, leading to some of the highest burnout rates. However, in efforts to take a proactive approach in addressing this element, wellness programs, counseling, and flexible scheduling will be offered to subordinates. Flexible scheduling, as mentioned earlier, offers subordinates the opportunity to create a schedule around their specific needs. Wellness programs are essential in our strategy to address this burnout, as they will provide an opportunity to release and focus on oneself. Similarly, we will be offered in efforts to provide additional support outlets for subordinates. Recognizing the importance of subordinate well-being, it is also crucial to recognize the importance of fostering motivation amongst these subordinates. As discussed with the theories, the motivation can vary depending on individuals and the motivations and needs they possess. However, we found it essential to offer significant recognition systems as well as opportunities for both career growth and continued education. Recognition systems allow subordinates to feel accomplished and rewarded. Opportunities for career advancement and continued education serve to be a motivation for subordinates as the leadership is showing genuine interest in their future careers. The career advancement element will offer opportunities for mentorship, coaching, and training such as emotional intelligence that we previously mentioned. And finally, we will ensure to create an environment where all feel psychologically safe and comfortable. Individuals in healthcare are under enough stress as it is, and the organizational culture and workplace environment should be one thing that offers comfort to them. In order to achieve this, we found it essential to include a diverse workforce, emphasizing open dialogue amongst all. With that being said, those are the strategies we developed to address the issues in the healthcare industry relating to the burnout of individuals in the industry. I will now pass it on to Jason for the mission and vision statements.
Thank you, Tanner. As we synthesize the research and the leadership theories, our mission statement captures what an effective healthcare organization should strive to do today. As shown on the slide, our mission is to lead with empathy, integrity, and innovation, empowering healthcare professionals through communication, motivation, and well-being initiatives that enhance both patient care and team performance. Now, this mission aligns with transformational leadership, which Cummings et al. Found to be strongly associated with higher staff engagement. It also reflects Herzberg's two-factor theory, as Tanner was mentioning earlier, because it emphasizes both hygiene factors, like well-being and supportive leadership, as we mentioned, and motivators, such as growth and empowerment. Finally, it's grounded in the people-centered approach highlighted in the textbook, which emphasizes a leader's responsibility to create conditions where employees feel valued, capable, and supported. Moving on to the next slide, we will be talking about the vision statement. Now, as shown on the slide, our vision looks toward the future, the culture we want to build long term. As shown on the slide, our vision is to create a healthcare culture where every team member feels valued, supported, and inspired to provide compassionate, high-quality care within a thriving, people-centered organization. This reflects what Shanafelt and Noseworthy describe as leadership-driven well-being, where leaders set the tone for psychological safety and team trust. And it aligns with Maslow's theory. As Tanner has also mentioned as well, staff can only perform at their best, their self-actualization, when their basic needs for safety, belonging, and recognition are all met. By grounding our mission and vision in research-backed leadership principles, we're signaling that people management isn't an add-on. It's foundational to organizational excellence. Now, to wrap up my portion, moving on to the next slide, all of our research came back to the central truth. Organizations thrive when leaders invest in their people. With that in mind, we leave the class with our focus question, something that challenges the way leaders think about balancing people and productivity. How can healthcare leaders effectively balance organizational efficiency with the need to support and motivate their teams in high-stress clinical environments? This question is at the heart of the leadership challenge. It pushes us to rethink what leadership looks like in modern healthcare and how the strategies we discussed can be applied in real time.
Thank you, Jason and Tanner. Thank you all for listening to our presentation. and please reach out with any questions or comments. Thank you.